that's how this notebook. And also we have something called global. Global keyword is going to be helpful as a similar way of declaring of the global variable, but you have to specifically mention it is a global variable, and it might be useful for the other functions also. uh, Internal, I can say, because if you want to, sometimes you want to declare by using some variable, right? So I'm passing to the some other way, some other value, like a speed, vehicle of the speed may be changed, right? Some distance to distance and vehicle to vehicle. So at the time you have to be change some kind of the variable to in some other functions. So this global keyword might be helpful for that matter. Yeah, you have to pass it that way. Yeah, I did any doubts here. I Yeah. So the map and map function, right? So just a second. Yeah. So yeah, here how exactly the map function is going to be help us means we have to capitalize the first letter. So here we have Akhil, right, and Vydyula. So here we have something called small letters, right? So we have to capitalize it. So I mean, we have to change from lower letters to upper letter. I mean upper character. So that's how this logical word, how does this going to be works out internally means. So we are taking the indices of the whatever the strings we have, that is the first character of the strings. We are going to be change it to the upper character of the whatever the these indices. So we are going to be change it, and we are going to be specified with whatever the strings we have to be assigned. So what exactly is going to be append means, so it will going to be take this character, and it's going to be do as a converting from lower to upper. Like you can take this example better. So it's going to be converted lower to upper and store it into the this format. And after that, whatever the other characters we have, it's going to be append. Then only it's going to be print as a total string here. I hope you understand this concept. Like,
Yes, sir.
yeah, yeah. So that's how, yeah, I didn't explain this logic, but that's how the internal going to be happen. The logic might be different from other, right? So I'm just explaining the basic syntax of the map and reduce. Okay, let's go with the flow. So second, recursion. I'm keep repeating, right? Iteration and recursion for every for loop and some of the while loops which we are going to be discussed. So recursion is obviously it will going to be help us. You don't want to do some manual work here. You have to be specifically repeat the work 100 times, let's say, or 1,000 times or 10,000 times. You don't want to do manually 1,000 times, right? So at that time you have to do some kind of recursion mechanisms or iterative approach. So basically for loop will going to be help us in that way. Mostly in the Python you have to be specific, give the number of the parameters, and whatever the sizes and range you have to be specifically mentioned in the for loop. So first let's go into the details of this code iterative approach. So here just counting the handshakes. So how many persons are there in a room, and how does this going to be calculate the handshakes of that person. So just to declare that function here, like a count handshakes of the iteratively, and giving some parameter like a total number of the persons in a row. So it's going to be calculated by using the count, right? Obviously, how many persons going to be handshaken. So just declaring that count is equal to 0, because currently we don't have anything, right? So just give as a temporary variable as count, and just giving the 0 value. So then we have to pass it the nested for loop, because we don't know how many persons inside that room, and also we have to declare some range about it, and we have to use this function to know about the how many total persons we have in the room. So we are taking obviously from person starts with one, right? So at the time we have to use the person type with one to how many persons we have inside the room. We have to pass it dynamically. whatever the value you have to be specified with this variable. So then what happened in this for loop? So whatever the person is going to be handshaked with this, it's going to be ranged by whatever the total persons we have. So let's take the example with one, right, or two persons in a room. So this person obviously going to be communicated with that another person. So handshakes is going to be doubled, like four, right? Obviously. So this going to be handshake and printing the whatever the statements we have, like we declared I and J variables here for the for loops. So it's going to be give as a handshake of the first person and second person, and it's also will give as some of the count, whatever the count we have assigned. So here first initially we have sent zero count. It's going to be counted by using one value. So initially, because we are declared also one person, right? So at the time it's going to be give as a one count. So we register the variable of the five. So the handshake of the one is obviously a two, because he had two hands, right? Obviously. So handshake of the one and the two, because every time it's going to be I can say the count is going to be updated. The count value initially it is one. Whenever you give it as a 0 plus 1, the count is equals to 1. It's keep iterative, right? So that's why the iterative approach. So whenever you give it as a 1, it's going to be give as a 2, count is equal to 2, and then it's keep repeating, and then it's keep repeating. So that's why you are getting the value of the 1 at a time of 5. After that it went to do the 2, and some of the operations also completed for the 2, and some of the operation completed as 3. So that's how the iterative approach, the basic scenario and approach. You have to be very specific to get to know about these details, because you have to be know about how to do these logic operators. And the recursive approach also be the same, I can say, but some we don't want to specifically have to enter the whatever the logics we have to be, but here just to give some kind of basic conditions to check about that and conditions. So similar way we have to give some of the function for that. So just create if the persons in a room is two. I hope you know some of the logic called the Fibonacci series, right? In that we use the recursive approach only. We don't, if you want to specifically enter the number, it's going to give as a Fibonacci number or not. So for that also we use some of the logic to get to know about that. So yeah, so in the recursive approach we had to be give specifically the return statements. So if the two persons, whenever you encounter some of the two persons, it's going to be gives basically two one result, or else it's going to be give as this computation result. So what exactly this going to be do? It's keep calling this function. It's keep calling this function, whatever the functions we have, keep calling. So the parameters is going to be total number of the persons in a room. So let's say you have the more than three persons, more than two persons. Okay. So whenever you have three minus one plus, and the total number of the persons, three minus one. So it's going to be computed some number, right? Obviously like this. So f of n minus one plus n minus one. We are not giving any function for this. So whenever you give the five number, it's going directly give the whatever the count and checks we have. So that's a basic difference between these statements. Here we don't have the return statements to iteratively do that, but here we have something called the return statement to get the results. So both approaches will going to be help us recursively, I can say. Yeah, this is just to understand about the basic difference of both the things. So you can do some exercise over it. I can say, because you will get to understand about that. So some of the advantages also, like it also use lots of the memory recursion, because this logic might be helpful to recursively operate, right? How many times it going to be. So it takes a lot of the memory most of the time, and time conquest also be the very high, I can say. Yeah, that's all this notebook is all about. You can also read some of the disadvantages and advantages about that. I hope you understand this notebook, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So